Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, it's Jackie Cation, and you are listening to The Dork Forest. The website's JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com if you like a determiner. Let's do the credits. Patrick Brady's going to fix this audio and video. Vilmos works on JackieCation.com, and Mike Rickberg sang the song with his wife, Sarah. He composed it, and he will sing his version of the Mexican hat dance at the end of this show. Thank you so much for listening to The Dork Forest. Here's a scoop. I'm doing stand-up online. A lot of Zoom shows will eventually go back on the road. Sign up for my email list. It's easy to get off. It's harder to get on than it is to get off. And no harm, no foul. If ever bored, JackieCation.com, sign up for the email list. You'll find out about my weekly Zoom shows and stand up on the road eventually. You may donate to the show if you would like. I would like. Sure, I would. There's PayPal, Jackie at JackieCation.com, and there is a PayPal button on both DorkForest.com and JackieCation.com. And there's Venmo, if you like Venmo, Jackie-Cation, oddly enough. If you have listened to all of the shows, go to dorkforest.bandcamp.com, I think. The Dork Forest has a Bandcamp page. You can listen to a lot of ones that are free from pre-2009 when I started pre-recording. And then there's live episodes that cost me a couple of bucks, so I charge you a couple of bucks. There's also some stand-up. There's a story album that's very exciting there. And other than that, I have a lot of merch in my garage. Feel free to order if you know anybody who doesn't have any CDs or the DVD. And you can follow me everywhere at Jackie Cation. Let's get into the show. Hi, Jackie Cation in my garage. That's right. That's a closet behind me. Not going to lie to you. I should have set this up better. We have a new guest, you guys. It's going to be a musical episode, so strap in, get your shot glasses out. Let it start doing hits when I ask too basic a question about the band. But with me is podcaster Branden Palomo. Branden Palomo, how are you?
I am doing well, Jackie. Thanks for having me on.
Sure. Welcome to the program. You have a podcast yourself called The Better Band, and it's at The Better Band. And Better Band Pod. Wait, Better Band Pod is the handle for Twitter and Instagram and everything. Mm-hmm. And betterbandpod.com is the website. Yeah. And your name, Branden Palomo, BrandenPalomo. It's at that for your personal Twitter and all that stuff.
Or Branden P. I figured, yeah.
Oh, just Branden P. Oh, there you go.
A little easier.
The band we are going to discuss is Pearl Jam. I've heard of Pearl Jam. I'm sure I've heard Pearl Jam. I know it's a 90s kind of flannel shirt kind of band, if I remember correctly. Is that?
Oh, yeah. When I came of age.
When it came of age. And I think there's a certain amount of people that were 15 in 1995 who lost their minds. And but I don't know anything about Pearl Jam. You did already send me an 8-track list of Pearl Jam songs, which I have not yet listened to, but I will.
That's okay.
And I'm sure you'll be like, you would know this song. It was huge. You were in gas stations and grocery markets, and so Branden? What?
Mm-hmm.
How many people are?
How do we begin?
Where do we begin with Pearl Jam?
With Pearl Jam, for me, it started because I was growing up. My dad was real into sci-fi. So he had comics. He had some Lord of the Rings books, other weird. I think there was a Robert Lynn Aspirin somewhere around there, a myth, something or other. And so I liked the intricate stories. I liked mythology behind things. And Pearl Jam had a mythology, had a story. You could go back into the long boxes and see, oh, hey, the little box in the corner, this guy also made an appearance in X Factor number 4. Go back and read that. It's like, oh, okay, I can get this. So Pearl Jam starts in 1990.
Okay.
Is when the band forms. However, you go back into the 80s, And two guys, Stone Gossard, who shares your birthday and how this kind of podcast got all started. I mentioned that to you. And Jeff Amens. They're buddies. They meet each other. They get in a band. They start a band called make a snide reference there, I guess.
You were frozen for that joke. What was the name? My internet supposedly is unstable, which doesn't make any sense to me because I'm hardwired. But so what was the name of their band in the 80s?
Green River.
Okay.
Was a band, had those two guys, Jeff and Stone, and a guy named Mark Arm and Steve Turner. And as you do when you're in a band, you have creative differences. And so they started getting big, and then they started arguing, and then they broke up. Mark Arm and Steve Turner go and create a band called Mudhoney, which I think is a reference to portable toilets and what you find inside.
They, we're a simple people. Humans anyway, because you got to name your band something, and
I guess the more colorful it is, the more it attracts
I'm sure
attention.
The label was like, what do you guys think about this? Anyway, so those guys
it was the 90s, it's
so those guys met in the 80s and started the band, and then did they meet in college, in high school, at a bar, just hanging out at music venues?
Yeah, it's sort of the whole scene that you had different people who knew each other, and it's like, oh, I went to school with this guy, I went to school with that guy, I knew that guy in some other band. Very incestuous.
What music scene? What music scene were they in? Were they in Minneapolis? Were they in Seattle?
Seattle. Yeah,
they were Seattle guys. Okay.
Yeah, all sort of started in Seattle. Jeff, he's the bass player. He grew up in Montana and found his way out to Seattle to do arty stuff.
Sure,
as you do.
Right. And
sorry.
Go ahead.
They start another band. Then Jeff and Stone like each other. One plays bass, the other plays guitar. Hey, let's start another band. They get this guy Andy Wood, who was in a band called Malfunction.
Is Andy Wood a stand-up comic now?
No.
Okay.
No.
Andy Wood.
Not that Andy Wood.
Not that Andy Wood. Andy Wood founded the Portland Bridgetown Comedy Festival and is a comedy writer and has, weirdly enough, a musical podcast. So, or a musical show that he does with another comic. And he plays guitar, but clearly not, maybe, I mean, he's a good comic, he's a great comedy writer. So, I was taken unawares, Branden Palomo.
That's all right. Well,
go ahead.
There's another name coming up, which might be a little sound a little familiar.
If it's Patton Oswalt, I'm gonna kill. It's gonna take. Go ahead.
So they form another band called Mother Love Bone. I guess you got to get your innuendos in where you can, like you said.
Yeah, dick jokes are dick jokes. Anyway, go ahead.
So they start playing. They get big. People start to talk about them. The Andy Wood, who is the singer for this band, ends up overdosing on heroin, and that's I think it's like the day before their album comes out. That it was supposed to be their big shot.
If it wasn't the day before, if it was the day after, it still would have been terrible. Okay, so they lose their lead singer.
Yeah, so they lose their lead singer. This is like, this is our second time at bat. Maybe we're not destined to be in a band or anything like that. The roommate,
were they doing heroin too? Do we know?
No.
Do we know if they're big druggies? No, we don't know.
No,
okay.
The other druggie, I guess, is coming up.
Okay, fair enough.
Not to be
Right.
insensitive about
Stereotypical.
that thing. Yeah.
Right. Oh, or insensitive.
But
yes.
Yeah. It's rock and roll. So,
It's
it's alcohol or drugs or women.
And this, at no time should anyone think that this is glamorous. You know, it's a great way to die. Old in your bed,
yes,
without shoes on, with loved ones all around you. Anyway,
in debt because that means you won.
Wait a minute. right. If you die owing money, that is a win. Go ahead.
So Chris Cornell, who's in a band called Soundgarden,
right
at this time, who is another big band around the time.
Yes.
He's a roommate with Andy Wood.
Oh, okay.
And so this really bums him out, and he ends up writing a couple songs in tribute to him. And he's like, "Hey, let me get those old guys who are in Mother Love Bone together. Let me get one of my guys." Because
they're all friends anyway, right?
Yeah. He's like, let's do this tribute for for my friend. And so he gets his drummer for Soundgarden, Matt Cameron.
Okay.
They all start playing. One of them says, "Hey, I know this guy in high school. He had a glam band, and they kind of are broken up now because nobody cares about glam. And so we'll call him in." Mike McCready, he was sort of the guy who showed off on guitar, who wanted to be Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Okay.
You might have heard of Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I have heard of Stevie Ray Vaughan. All I know is it's contentious. The best guitar player maybe in the world. We don't know. Some people say it's Prince. Other people say it's Jimi Hendrix. Now we've tapped out my guitar knowledge. Keep going.
So they start playing. They are like, "Hey, let's put it out an album as tribute." And so at this time, the Jeff and Stone from the original album, original band we started talking about, and this new guy Mike, who's the flashy guitar player, they're like, "Hey, let's start a band together, and let's try this again." So we need a drummer.
But not the Soundgarden guy.
No.
Okay.
No,
Soundgarden guy went back to Soundgarden.
Yeah,
which
he's
is
like, we'll do this tribute
popular
album.
Yeah.
And just so people hopefully can hear about this, my Andy friend.
Yeah.
And we need a drummer, we need a singer. Put the words out. They go to Jack Irons, who at this time is in Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, "I'm about to leave Red Hot Chili Peppers. You know what? I'm not real into playing drums with you guys. I know a singer though. So give me your tape. I'll give this tape to a singer I know whose name is Eddie Vedder, who is the singer of Pearl Jam."
Right.
Might have heard his name.
Yeah. I would have guessed a different band, but Eddie Vedder. Yeah, that is okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So they all kind of come together.
Yeah.
They record demos with Matt Cameron, who was the Soundgarden drummer who played with them in that tribute thing.
Okay.
They start playing. They get another drummer. They make the first album. They start getting huge. Put out their second album. Sells 1 million records in a day, which doesn't happen at all at this point in time.
Right. Because this is CD times, right? This is it's Napster, but it's not digital. It's not full on digital yet. It's still CDs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think CD burners are just starting getting to put into computers and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and they sort of insisted, it's like, "Hey, we want to put our music out on vinyl because we're cool, and this is retro, and this is the way music is supposed to be heard. You get a big flat, 12-inch thing to look at,
crackling rose, sure, going a little Neil Diamond on everybody, do it, and
a little scratching maybe if you're into that thing.
If somebody really wanted to do that with their album, they wanted to be available, sure.
Yeah. So they make a couple albums. They're like, you know what? I think we're getting too famous, and so we're not going to make videos. Yes, they're like, you know what? It's a fickle
not
mistress.
About the art. It's about the art, man. We're too famous.
We gotta be true to ourselves. We can't sell out. This is the 90s. We gotta be true,
Okay. Authenticity. Let's see.
You want to fight the man. You want to say, "Hey, we want our tickets to be $20, not any higher."
Okay.
Ticketmaster comes along and says, "Hey, we like putting fees on tickets." They say, "We're gonna fight you, Ticketmaster." They go all the way to Supreme Court.
They're the ones who did that?
Yes, they're the ones that did that.
Oh, I remember that. I remember the court case. Sure.
Yeah.
Can't remember a song, but yes, the court case.
Yeah, they pop up every once in a while. It's like, oh yeah, I think I've heard about that. I know something about that.
How did they do at the Supreme Court?
Oh, they lost. That's
it's Ticketmaster. Yeah, they're gonna win.
They're selling tickets to themselves and then reselling them on with whatever website or something that they have now that they did.
Yeah. Oh, they're still doing that.
Oh yeah.
It's because to my understanding, Ticketmaster has a deal with venues, and if you don't want to use Ticketmaster, you can't work that venue.
Yeah.
And there's the rub, and because the rub's like, well, we need to make our $6 to $12 a ticket or whatever it is, right? And okay, so where is Pearl Jam playing? Are they playing giant venues?
Well, at this point in time, they're like, okay, you know what? We have a drummer, who's our third drummer now. At this point, he's third drummer. Recorded their second and third albums with them. He's a little bit too into this fame. We don't really like him that much. We're going to fire him. Hey, we're going to go back to that Jack Irons guy who was in Red Hot Chili Peppers, who passed Eddie Vedder the tape.
Oh, right.
And we're going to say, hey, can you drum for us now? And he says, yeah, sure. I'll go ahead and drum for you.
Okay.
So now they have another drummer, like a drummer that they sort of originally wanted to have, and they get new energy. They're like, screw you, Ticketmaster. We're not going to play at those venues. And they play at crappy venues.
They play at just a more dodgy venues, but small venues where people get to see Pearl Jam among 250 people.
Yeah. And plus, the tickets aren't, $80, $50 and stuff like that. So they're a little bit cheaper. So the kids can go see them. They can afford to see them.
And this is still the 90s?
Mm-hmm.
And so they must be here's what I've never understood about bands, because there's 4 or 5 people in a band. A stand-up comic, even if it's low headliner money, one nighter stuff on the road, you make $200 for a one nighter at a Best Western 4-wall in it. You get a hotel and $200, and then you've driven there. You get to keep that whole $200. If you have 4 guys in your band, everybody gets $50. You might get one hotel room. You have to sleep like puppies, and you've driven there. Is that correct? Does that sound?
They'll sleep in the van. You get
sometimes they sleep in the van. They get no room at all.
Yeah, you get the merch though. You get the T-shirts. You get the CDs.
Right, and that is pretty good money. Bands taught comedians how to sell merch, which was a gift from. But I wish we could have taught them to ask for more money and hotel rooms. But we're losing our own edge on asking for hotel rooms, so maybe it's just bleeding over. So it's still the 90s. They're grinding it out, like doing like 5 shows a week at different venues so that they can make enough money.
Yeah, at this point when they're trying to shun Ticketmaster, it cuts down a lot. It's more time between gigs and stuff like that. So that's going to cut into, the money you're making and everything like that, as opposed to playing, 5 shows a week or so.
Right.
Because, they're playing big now. They're big, they're famous. It kind of happened between the first 2 albums, which came out 3 years apart. So it's getting pretty wild. So they tour a couple times, have a couple more records. Now Jack Irons, he's like, you know what? I'm getting older. I'm older than you guys, because I played with Red Hot Chili Peppers and they're really, really old. So we gotta.
How old are these people, by the way? In '95, how old are the 2 founding guys?
95, they're about your age, I believe.
They're 56. What's happening?
Oh wait, no, they're your age. So however old you were
in 1995.
Yeah, so like in the late mid 90s, they're
30,
mid 30, early 30. Yeah.
So they're and the Red Hot Chili Pepper guy is 35. So he's maybe 5 years older than they are.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. 5, yeah, probably 5 or 6 or so. So he's been around the block.
Oh, yeah, just twice though. And okay, so these guys, they start the band when they're 30. What did they do before that?
Mid late 20s, I think.
So
depending, they're kind of different ages.
Okay. Yeah. Well, how old are they now? Well, actually, I could look it up, and then I would find out.
They're probably in their mid 50s now, I believe.
It's So yeah, so they didn't start. They didn't start the Pearl Jam, and if they started it in 90, they were 25.
Mm-hmm.
So then. And then they're famous by the mid 90s or the late 90s, right?
Yeah, probably 93, 94 when they're at their biggest.
Okay. Yeah. And then so now the Red Hot Chili Peppers guy doesn't want to tour with them anymore?
Yeah. He's like, I got my family, I got kind of bipolar issues, I got to take care of myself. I can't go out and travel and not sleep and
right. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I got to take care of myself. That's what you learn as you get older. It's like, I should have saved my knees. Maybe it's nice to be able to walk and not creak around.
Exactly. It's yeah. So these guys were all born 64, 66, 66, and then Jeremy Irons. He's only Jeremy Irons. That's an actor. I'll be over here. But that guy, he was born in 62. So he's like 3 years older, 4 years older than the rest of them. So, but the thing is being a rock star, that has got to be like, first of all, I know that they have people to carry their stuff, right? I mean, this is the big leagues, right? They're playing with white balls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's got to be just a bigger grind. I mean, if you're 35 years old or 38 years old and thinking to yourself, I'm too old for this shit, just think about how much work that is. Did you ever play, Branden?
Yes, actually, listening to Pearl Jam as a kid, I was like, I want to try my hand at playing guitar, being in a band.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
So there was heavy lifting, and then you have to, and playing for 3 hours, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's how long the shows are, right?
Yeah, that's how long they are nowish.
And well, I mean, even if it's just a 2-hour show, you got 2 45-minute sets, and then you take a 15-minute break or something. Is that right? Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, it's like the difference between basketball and baseball, right? Basketball, you're running the whole time. And then baseball, you're mostly sitting around running really fast. Wait. Yeah, a lot of hurry up and wait nonsense. So I think rock and roll is more basketball than baseball. Don't you think?
Yeah.
So I can see why you'd be tired at 38.
Yeah. Jack too was, like I said, he was in the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That was going in the early 80s. So that's a pretty hardcore band too that does substances and
right. The early 80s. If he was born in 62, he's 20 in 82.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I don't know when the Red Hot Chili Peppers was founded, when they first started playing out. But I remember hearing about them in college in like 85 or 86.
Mm-hmm.
Is that about right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Don't really know too much about them. I know they made they made a record with George Clinton, and I think Cocaine got a co-producing credit on that album too. So they
all right. Yeah. So do they have to get another drummer? They're hard on drummers, the Pearl Jam.
Yeah, it's the fans have sort of called the drummer situation at this point. Just drummers coming in and out. So at this point, they're like, okay, we need another drummer. Hey, Matt Cameron, at this time, your band Soundgarden has broken up. And remember, you played those demos that kind of were with us, and you're in our the tribute band, Andy Wood. How about you can play drums with us? He joins the band. It's some weird sort of full circle. It almost seems like fate.
Right.
At this point.
What year is that?
This is 97. This is the 97 tour for their album.
How long did he last?
It came out about that time. He is still in the band now.
What?
Yep.
That's,
so they found their missing piece.
It's the Goldilocks. It's the Goldilocks story. Finally, just right. So are they still playing out? Are they still?
Yes, as of this recording, they just played their first show in 3 years last night.
Okay, where was it?
It was New Jersey, but it's still going out there. It's still playing.
Yeah. Are you in Seattle? Do you live?
No, I'm in Reno.
You're in Reno. Oh, yeah. I like Reno. A lot of people don't like Reno. They like Vegas better. They're wrong. Because everyone who goes to Vegas, and this is strictly from a gambling, like the downtown kind of situation, Reno is much prettier than Vegas, of course, because it's in the mountains and it's very beautiful. But I like Reno because it's full of people who are like, do you want to go lose $200 and have dinner? Yeah, let's go do that. And in Vegas is everyone's like, I'm going to meet Matt Damon. And it's going to be amazing. And you're just going to lose $200 and you have a nice dinner. So that's why I like Reno. But that's cool.
Yeah, we get some pretty good sushi from the Bay Area, I think.
Oh, that's cool. And how many times have you seen Pearl Jam? Have you seen them live ever?
Yes, I've seen them around 15 times, I think.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, that's not as much as some people have seen them who I don't know if they have trust funds or what, who have seen them lots and lots of times. Because
they are expensive, even though they're still trying to be relatively affordable.
Yeah, it's at some point, when you aren't driving yourself in a van, and you kind of get a bus and you get people to drive for you. And you get people and you have a light show and you become a corporation. You have people you gotta, pay a living wage to. So you're not as bad as those people you're railing against. Then you gotta hack off a hunk of money for
to go see. Well, how much is it to see I went and saw live music about 2 years ago, Brandon. I saw Heart at the Hollywood Bowl.
Heart, also from Seattle.
Also from Seattle, Heart.
Yep.
I did not know. I enjoyed it a lot, and but it was I think $100. I think it was $100 to go see him. Is that how much it is to see Pearl Jam now?
Yeah, they'll usually they want to people what the scalp tickets and stuff like that all the time. And want to say,
oh no, this was face value.
Oh yeah. But I mean, like people are doing that now for Pearl Jam and everybody else. They'll sell stuff on all the StubHubs and whatever, and stuff. So they try to it's like, okay, we'll sell 2 tickets at a time because chances are you want to go with somebody, and if you want to go someone, you're not going to try to sell a ticket to somebody else or whatever.
To sit next to you? Yeah, that'd be awkward.
But they they'll do that. People who go see Pearl Jam is like, hey, I'll buy 2 tickets, and I know somebody else is going to want to go who doesn't have a ticket. So,
of course.
People try to do it like face value and stuff.
What is the face value of the ticket of a Pearl Jam ticket?
They used to be a whole lot cheaper. Now I don't know. It's probably around $150 for 2 tickets.
Okay.
Or so, which is
a good deal of money for a night out. But you're going out to see a band.
Mm-hmm.
The t-shirts are probably $40 each or whatever.
Yeah.
And do you do the whole thing? Like when you go, do you have Pearl Jam t-shirts? I did an episode of The Dork Forest about Chicago, the band Chicago, and Jimmy Pardo was the guest, and he was lamenting. He gave away all of his Chicago t-shirts one year.
Oh.
He put them in Goodwill, and now he's repurchasing them on eBay.
Yeah, but with a tax on it too.
With a tax and
investor tax,
and they don't fit right.
Oh yeah.
Right, because there were somebody else's for 25 years. But do you have Pearl Jam T-shirts and stuff?
Yeah.
Did you get the merch?
I got one right now. It's from the fan club.
Oh,
that they have. So you enter in the fan club.
Yeah.
Yes, it's you pay $40 for a year. They send you a free shirt.
Mhm.
They say, hey, we record all of our shows we have since the 2000s. You can get a free bootleg. A lot of people listening to all the different bootlegs. They change their sets pretty much every night. So it's kind of like, I've seen them once this tour. I want to
Yeah.
see them the next night though, because they're going to play all different songs. And so
Right.
they have, deep cuts, B-sides.
How many albums do they have? Oh yeah, I went. I think
Weird
my
old stuff. You froze there for a sec, yeah.
I did freeze. What? How many albums do they have?
They have 11 albums out now. They just put out one right at the beginning of the pandemic, which was excellent timing.
Right, perfect timing. It's interesting that that they mostly studio albums or live albums.
Those are just studio albums, but
Okay.
like I said, starting in 2000, that whole stretch of time, I think it was their two shows, and so they put out 72 CDs of each of those shows. I think it broke the record, another record broken of the most albums on the Billboard 200 at the same time.
Oh my gosh!
Just because like 5 or 6 of them all got on there.
Oh, that's amazing. They I like that their fan club is reasonable, because for $40, it's sort of like it's kind of like a very basic kind of Patreon kind of thing, but it's $40. Is it $40 a year at least, or is it $40 one time?
No, it's $40 a year. When it started out, they called it the 10 Club. They called it 10. Their first album is called 10. When they were first starting their band, they were originally going to call it Mookie Blaylock, not Mookie Blakelock, who I know is another comedian. Mookie Blaylock, the basketball player, who had the number 10.
Okay.
And so that's why they named their album 10, and everything was 10. They had their 10 Club, which was the fan club. Originally was $10, but as you do with inflation.
Sure, and you get a free T-shirt. I mean, the thing is if the Dork Forest, if I had a Patreon, I actually like the idea of just sort of a flat fee. You're like, do you want to be in the Patreon? Because right now, the Dork Forest doesn't have a Patreon. People can just email me, Jackie@JackieCation.com. Live it up. And they can buy shirts and they can buy stuff, but it's but it seems like a really cool, especially because they're so popular, right? Because they have a giant fan base. That it seems reasonable. You're like $40 a year, you get a free T-shirt and access to bootlegs. Yeah, that's incredibly generous, I think. My ad. I'm about to do an ad. Rangers. It is a crazy world, and we know it. Oh my gosh, do we know it? I am very much looking forward to touring some more and going back on the road. And it's stuff I'm excited about. There's stuff I'm rather not think about, obviously. I think we all know what it is. It's politics. But you can't always control the vibes out there. But you could always control the vibes in your head with a pair of Raycon wireless earbuds in your ears. I use the everyday earbuds. And the everyday earbuds, I use them in the airport. I use them when standing in line, quite honestly. And I use them for phone calls now, too, because they're super comfortable. Whether you use them to wind up or wind down or calm down, I like to they're my go-to for on-the-go audio right now. So the everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound better than ever. They have an improved rubber oil look they fit right in your ear. They are comfortable to wear for hours on end, and I do at the airport. I wear them for easily 3 to 7 hours, taking them out, putting them back in when the flight attendants come by and ask me stuff. But they have optimized gel tips for the perfect ear fit. It's great. Because they go flush to your ear, so they're not just hanging around, right? They're great. You can get 3 new sound profiles to make sure that everything you're listening to sounds its best with the right amount of bass, for example, or treble when it comes to just talking. There's pure mode, which is for podcast listening. Listen to the Dork Forest, do it. Blues, instrumentals. Balanced mode for podcast, but then rock and then heavy rock and metal. And then bass mode for your hip hop, your EDM, your reggae. I like reggae, but I haven't listened to that in a while. There you go. There's an all-new awareness mode for when you need to listen to your surroundings instead. Raycons offer 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life, which is great. There's also a built-in mic, and you can take calls in your earbuds. I use it for that as well. At the press of a button, you use the buttons inside your ears, like just on the edge of them, and you go 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and it's awesome. Raycons start at half the price of other premium audio brands, but they sound just as good. And Raycons come with a 45-day happiness guarantee. So right now, Dork Forest listeners can get 15% off their Raycon order at buyraycon.com/dork. So use that specific URL, buyraycon.com/dork, to save 15% on Raycons. BUYRAYCON.com/dork. Buyraycon.com/dork. Let's get back into the show.
Yeah, and I think there's some other musical artist. It doesn't have a connection to Pearl Jam, but I think Amanda Palmer, who kind of said, if you have like 100 super hardcore fans that are willing to give you, like $100 a year.
She didn't write that, but yes, that is that's the old standard. Because when I learned about merch, I learned it from bands. That's the only thing I know about music is sort of their
how to merchandise, how to make a buck.
Yeah, and I just know their strategy, and I'm sad about their hotel strategy, but their merch strategy is dead on. And the Dork Forest is based on that if you can get 100 super fans and the super fans each give you $100 a year, like right now, the Dork Forest has 40 super fans, and that's 40 people a year who give me $100 a year. And some people give me more, a lot of people give me less, but that's 100 times 100. That's pretty good money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're not going to embarrass ourselves and try to do the math live, but
right. I think it was 10,000. Yeah, it's 10,000. I think what you want is 1,000 people to give you $100 a year. So maybe do I have 4? No, I think I only have 40. It's I don't think I'm anywhere. This is the 16th year of the Dork Forest, by the way. And you would think at some point this would be a profit-making endeavor. But I'm not too worried about it because
it's about
I still...
the art, right, Jackie?
Well, because you have a podcast. By the way, I am talking with Branden Palomo, and he has a podcast, and it's called The Vedder Band. And you talk about Pearl Jam. And how many episodes are there?
I'm going track by track through all their albums. It's over 100 something or other.
Okay.
That I've had so far.
Okay, so you're unpacking the band, right? And you're just doing it track by track for 11 albums.
Yes, unless they put out another one, then I'll consider that being renewed for another season.
What album are you on?
I am on their final album with Sony Records. So that is their 7th album that they put out in
so you're on their 7th of 11. Okay. Did the Spotify list that you sent me of 8 tracks, by the way, Spotify added another 7 tracks to your...
Just by themselves?
Yeah. Yeah, they're just like, you like Pearl Jam? Here's another 7 songs. So I couldn't tell which 8 you picked and which 8 they picked. And then I looked at your YouTube list because you did both, which I find enormously dorky and delightful. So
I included a couple live songs. You got to have that, it's about the experience.
Right, but the YouTube is just your 8. YouTube didn't choose to add another song or 2 just because I liked them. So I'm going to listen to them on the YouTube. on the YouTube list rather than the Spotify list.
Okay.
I think I've heard of one of the songs. It's called Alive.
Mm-hmm.
That I think was a hit.
Yes.
What do you want to go through the songs that you picked? Why you picked them?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. The first song that I had on there was Long Road.
Yep.
That song was they recorded it with Neil Young, of all people.
Okay.
They played as Neil Young's backing band for an album in '95 called Mirror Ball, and they because they were with Sony Records, they said, "Hey, we don't want you credited as Pearl Jam on this album because of money reasons or something." And so, go ahead and play with Neil Young as long as you guys don't have your name on there.
Okay.
They had a day in the studio. Ed wrote a song called Long Road. It was played, I believe, at the 9/11 TV show that they had like a week or two after that happened.
Oh, wait a minute. Like a benefit.
Yeah. It was like the TV.
I was like, did I miss a 9/11 TV show right after 9/11? I'm praying to God it isn't a dramedy. The music that they do is guitar rock, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pearl Jam? Yeah. So, is it just like a lead guitar, bass guitar, drummer? What's the other instrument?
Yeah, that's pretty much a lead guitar, rhythm guitar.
Okay.
They have added also a keyboardist.
Okay.
In their lineup.
Early on?
No, later on.
Later on.
Their sort of 9/11 reaction album. That's the one that I'm on right now, called Riot Act. They added in a keyboard player who is this older guy who's probably 15, 20 years older than them, from Hawaii, who ran into while surfing and kind of, hey, you seem pretty cool. Why don't you why don't you play with us?
Do they surf?
Yeah, Eddie surfs.
Eddie surfs. Okay.
Yeah. He's actually the keyboardist is actually featured on the second song, Love Boat Captain.
Love Boat Captain. List. I saw the name of it and I was just like, is it supposed to be funny? what kind of lyrics do they what are the lyrics like?
Lyrically, this one actually references an incident that happened in Roskilde, Denmark, Netherlands. 9 fans were actually lost their lives during one of their performances. People were just sort of going crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like
got
Who
trampled or
yeah. So
what? Okay.
So this song is sort of a remembrance of them. One of the lines goes, "Lost 9 friends will never know," and so kind of referencing that.
The 9 people who died. Wow, cheerful. Are they? Now you've done 7 of 11 albums.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the albums do they have a story arc? Sort of like
no, they're not really big on concept albums or operas or whatever like that.
Yeah. Concept albums is a new term that I've learned in the last couple of months. But some of the songs on them, like each song will just be in response to something that's happened, or do they write the songs together, or does somebody mostly write them?
In the beginning, they sort of each brought in what they had and they'd work on it a little bit, say kind of like, okay, here's my part to it, here's your part to it. Kind of worked a little bit more together. In the middle times when they were getting super big famous, a lot of it was Eddie Vedder coming in with songs and saying, hey, everybody loves you, you're the leader, so you write the songs. And it's kind of like, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And so then they started writing more songs together. They would come up with something, bring it to the band. They all kind of play around with it, find out their own parts in it, because, You
Yeah.
play the drums, so you know how to play the drums better than I do. So,
What's
figure
the
something out
drum
with it.
solo going to look like?
Yeah.
Yeah. But is there anyone specifically writing lyrically, or do they, someone brings the idea for the song and then they all kind of work on the lyrics together?
It's mostly Eddie, the singer, who has the lyrics. There was a time where he got sort of writer's block. And so other people started contributing lyrics then. And so now it's kind of mostly Eddie, but it's not unusual to see somebody else, the drummer coming in with lyrics. It's like, oh, hey, who knew he could write lyrics, or the bass player.
Yeah. It's just more inclusive and sort of a way to spread the wealth around and to spread the responsibility around, I think is a good idea. Because then nobody. So what's the one after Love Boat?
One after Love Boat Captain is Daughter. That was actually the song that they were playing while the people got trampled.
Yikes!
Yeah, it's not a sort of rocking hard song at all. It's an acoustic, ish sort of song about a girl who is abused, and so they have always written songs. Sort of, they'll write stuff from a female's point of view. They'll write stuff. I believe one of the songs. If I would have had it next, then that would have been great. Great transition there. But
right. But
the
now
song
you just
Better,
gotta find it. Yeah.
The song Better Man, which I have on here too, and which my podcast is a reference to that. Better Man, Better Band.
The Better Band. Got it.
A pun, yes.
Yes. No, I love it. You got to do something with the name of the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. That song is sort of about from the point of view of his mother, who Ed grew up with a guy who he thought was his dad. Turns out that his dad ends up dying as he's a teenager, his real dad, and his mom tells him, it's like, hey, this guy was your real dad, not this guy that I married
raised
to.
You.
Yeah.
And
so that kind of threw him for a loop. That's actually what the song Alive is about.
It's about finding out who his biological dad is and all of that. That's a huge reveal. How old was Eddie Vedder when his mom told him? Like 15 or 16?
Yeah, he was a teenager about that time.
That is that could have gone either way. That could have gone Harry Potter. That could have gone finding out your family is a different family.
Yeah, he's the one that lived though, which you got the song Alive. So that's
the boy that lived. And it's Harry Potter. Anyway, so okay, so that's cool. What a weird. That's the weird thing about rock music is that it's also, people are rocking out. But if you look into the lyrics, you're just like, well, that's a really angry little kid going on there. What's going on there? Or that's a sad story. Or that's, because the music that I have often listened to, and this will be the second time I reference Harry Chapin in a month, but like Cats in the Cradle, going in that this is a sad song. There's nowhere to dance. There's nowhere to mosh pit in a Harry Chapin. It's taxi.
Maybe you can sign kind of klezmer-esque sort of, it's kind of medieval.
Yeah, you could do a jig, or you could do maybe a minuet. There's maybe a waltz, but it doesn't feel like a rock kind of thing. But when you look at some of those grunge bands from even, and I own one Nirvana album, and it's the famous one. And I've listened to it maybe a handful of times, but it's a good album. But it is not, and some of them are, the sort of the metally kind of guitar grunge, I guess. But if you get into the lyrics of it, if you get under it, you're like, oh, this is intense, right? These are some lyrics about some real events, right? Is that what you like about Pearl Jam? Do you like the lyrics? Do you like the music? What brought you to it initially? Was it the music or the lyrics?
Initially it was probably the music. just hearing it and kind of, oh, hey, what's this? I'd been listening. This is the early 90s, so I was listening to what my parents listened to. It was Prince, Eagles, Chicago.
Okay.
They had that stuff in the house, and then this, I sort of found it and it became my own, as,
right. Well,
as some people do who get into music. They find their own way.
Yeah. You got to find and grunge in the early 90s. That you would have been junior high school yourself. So it would have been. That would have been the time when you were like, well, I need to connect. It's not that Prince isn't good or I don't like Chicago or the Eagles or whatever. It's just that, because, but you do have to find the stuff you want to listen to.
Yeah.
That your parents are like, what is this? Okay. All right. All right. We can listen to it. And well, that's cool. And then what's the next one after Daughter?
After Daughter, I have a song, Present Tense. That song they played on an ESPN 30 for 30, I think, about Michael Jordan a couple months ago. Yeah.
So they wrote to events to some extent. Like they wrote to 9/11 or to they wrote. What is Present Tense about?
Well,
what is happening?
This one they wrote back in the 90s.
Okay.
It's just sort of you got to live life in the present tense. You can't.
Yeah.
The line of it goes, you can go on, keep on living, or you can go on, keep redigesting past regrets.
Okay.
And you got to live in the present tense.
Seems that needlessly, it's getting harder to find an approach and a way to live. Are we getting something out of all of this encompassing
all-encompassing trip?
All-encompassing trip. Yeah. Yeah, this is some deep stuff, man. I'm more in favor of, I like it when the lyrics are, because there's poets and there's lyricists, and you have a child, and very, very sweet. And But the lyricists of the last 50, 60 years are the poets, are mostly the poets that we see. So I like it when I read something and I'm like, well, that's kind of deep and it means something. It's not, it's not, hey, go kill that.
I know you let me tell you your name. I don't know. Do whatever.
Right. Exactly.
Jim Morrison does.
Right. Just some weird. Yeah. It's all. Yeah. So there's an opportunity. What's after present tense? Because I like that.
Tense is Black. I have a performance from MTV Unplugged that they played real early in their career when they still just had the one album.
Right.
This performance in particular, a lot of people talk about it and stuff.
Because it's literally acoustic, right?
Yeah.
Because it's unplugged.
Yeah, it's an acoustic sort of ballad. Losing a love, which as an early teenager, that's kind of that draws you in. That drawed me into. It's like, oh, I'm so lonely. I can't talk to girls. He knows what it's like to.
He knows what it's like. It turns out there's humanity, and yeah, okay, that's cool. That's 5. You got 3 more songs here. What else did you put on the?
Yeah, then Better Man, like I said, the sort of song about his mom with a guy he didn't like, and she can't find a better man, so she stays with him just because it's security. It's the patriarchy,
Oh wait, so now Eddie Vedder's biological dad dies. She finds out that. She tells him that the man that has been raising him is not his biological father.
Yeah. And
the man who she's currently married to is not a good guy either?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I think his biological dad was sort of like, hey, he was a musician as well. So that's what he wanted to do. Wife was kind of like, yeah, okay, fine. Go ahead and run around. I got a kid now, so I got to take care of him.
Right. And so she left the biological dad and hooked up with the new guy. And that guy is a musician or not a musician?
I don't think he's a musician.
Okay. But he is not a particularly good guy.
Yeah.
And
Eddie doesn't like him.
And Eddie doesn't like him. I wonder if he liked him when he thought he was his dad.
Yeah, I don't know. He hasn't ever wrote a song about that.
Right, exactly, right? I mean, it's just like, because do you know if Eddie Vedder has any siblings, like younger siblings with that man?
I believe so. I believe like in a couple of concerts he's said, "Oh, hey, there's my brother backstage," or something like that. I believe
Okay.
he has a brother.
Okay. At least a brother from his mother's second marriage. And
I believe so, yeah.
Wow. Here's the thing about that drama. I want to know what the hell happened there, right? I was like, hey, Eddie, so the guy who married your mom and raised you, you don't like that guy, even though he was there for you most of your life. And gave you a little brother. And but the guy who bailed on you at birth, that guy's a hero because he's a musician. Was that? Am I reading that right, Branden?
Possibly. I'm not into the gossip of the thing. You know, like I said, there's the mythology behind the band,
right? And then there's those two songs, though, right? There's there's
Better Man and Alive.
And Alive. That's it. Is Alive the next one?
The next one is Do the Evolution.
Okay.
That was a song that they made a video to for the first time since their first album. This was off of their fifth album. It was done by Todd McFarlane, who had his Spawn cartoon out at the time.
Okay. Yeah. I tried to read that. Yeah. That didn't take, but I meant to because he's supposed to be super. I mean, it was interesting. It just wasn't.
It was the dark 90s of comic books where the bad guys were the cool guys, you know.
Right. It's a lot of anti-hero stuff. And I was just like, even in the 90s, I was unmoved by the anti-hero. I was like, that's great, but I would like the hero to win or turn him into the Thunderbolts. Those are the two things I want. I want the anti-hero to actually turn into a hero. Did you ever read Incorruptible?
No, I don't think so. That's the with the Ant-Man, right?
No, that's Mark Waid. There's Irredeemable and Incorruptible.
Oh, okay.
Which is essentially Ender's Game and Ender's Shadow of comic books. So Irredeemable is a Superman character who goes rogue and kills like 3 billion people and becomes a bad guy. And Incorruptible is about one of the super villains who has to become a superhero to fight the bad guy Superman. And Mark Waid wrote it. It's amazing. One of the first scenes of Incorruptible is our bad guy is literally wakes up with a 15-year-old girl. And he's like, oh, I'm a good guy now. We can't have sex anymore. and you're just like, all right. And then we see that transition of him turning into into the hero. And I was like, all right, I'll read that. So, but I need, yes, I definitely. So Todd McFarlane.
Yeah, he did. He animated the video for that.
Oh, that's
they said
cool.
That they wanted the history of the human race in 4 minutes. And so they kind of go along throughout evolution. The song's called Do the Evolution, and they show, war and, the hypocrisy in humanity and all that sort of stuff.
Sure. Which is all very real. And so, yeah. So do you put these albums on and just hang?
Yeah. Sometimes a lot of people like to listen to the bootlegs and stuff. I think I kind of prefer, maybe it's because of the podcast I'm doing, I prefer to listen to studio stuff more because that's what I'm going through.
Right. When you're done, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, but they've a lot of people are kind of like, I liked them when they were, their first albums, their later ones. I don't get them, it's kind of they've grown. I know that,
hopefully
you hear stuff at a certain age and that becomes your favorite stuff forever.
Yeah.
And so, you can't ever get back there. They're growing. You got to grow too. So.
Right.
It might
and
not
you can
be
still
for you.
love, you can still love that early stuff and be into it and watch it and listen to it. But what do you like about their journey? Like from the first song that you liked, like Black was on the first album, right?
Yeah.
And what's their current album, the one that just came out 2 years ago, right? What are the big differences? Do they talk about, just sort of what they've learned, and are they still mad at the patriarchy? Are they still mad at the man?
Oh yeah, this I think this one that has come out, like every album sort of has a different cover art sort of theme around it. So it doesn't, it's not a rock opera or concept album in that sense, but they'll have album art that kind of has a motif around it.
Okay.
This one has been global warming. So a gigaton is like how much ice has, the Arctic is losing every, month or day or something like that because of climate change right now.
Yeah, by a desalination.
I'm in Reno, so I might have some oceanfront property. Everybody says
any minute now. So so that's one of them. So they address the current issues. And their heart hasn't changed so much, right? I mean,
no, they've always kind of been looking both inward and also outward, out at the world, seeing what's around them. They have a song called WMA, which stands for White Male American, which was a pre-Black Lives Matter sort of song about, hanging out with, Eddie was hanging out with a black guy. Cop came up to both of them and just harassed the black guy. And he said, I hadn't showered in a couple of days. I'm dressed like a grunge guy, and they come up and bug him. It's kind of like, I'm the one who looks homeless. Why are you bugging him?
Right. Which is, that learning experience of being white and then witnessing, the invention of the iPhone camera has, because I always thought I got it, right? Because I have arrogance, but the thing is the huge reveal every, whenever it happens, there's like a cascade of information, and I'm just like, I didn't, because I'm in my own fishbowl, right? I didn't see, but I thought I saw, and I got sort of the big picture. But when it's the specificity of each of those videos that came with the iPhone, with the introduction of cameras on phones, where you're just like, then it's one huge reveal after another where you're like, oh shit. And I remember when it first happened, I would talk to friends of mine who were black and brown and gay, and I'd be like, did you see this? And they're like, put it down. Yes, I've seen it. I am familiar with racism. Can we go to lunch? Anyway, but I'm glad you're seeing it in another, level. And I'm like, I have onion burns. The peeling of the onion is happening so fast. I have freaking onion burns, man. Anyway, but that's cool that they're sort of, because as some artists get older and stuff, they get set in their ways, and then all of a sudden they're like, they become more conservative, or they stop seeing, they're living in too big of a gated community, right? And they lose.
They got money. They don't want to pay taxes anymore.
Right. It's a weird, you're just like, what happened to that guy? I used to like that guy. Now you're this guy? Why? I mean, Eminem didn't turn into that guy, but Kid Rock turned into that guy, right? So it's a very weird kind of thing where you're just like, could go either way. So I'm glad that Pearl Jam kind of stayed on the right side of history, in 40 years of doing music,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30 years, yeah.
Yeah. What, we got about 2 minutes left here. What was the last song alive?
Yeah, the last song's alive. Sort of they're the song that made them. Eddie in this specific performance is from from VH1 Storytellers. He sort of tells the story about how this is a song about when his mom told him that wasn't his real dad, and he was like, my real dad is dead, but I'm still alive. I'm a reminder to you of that guy. And so, what does that make me? The song actually is sort of hints at a story This was one of the 3 songs from the original tape that he got from Jack Irons. That he went surfing, he listened to the songs, he wrote music to it, he sent it back, they listened to it, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is the first song of the trilogy about a kid being told that his
world is
destroyed. His mom tells him, you look a lot like your birth dad. There's kind of an Oedipus sort of thing going on. But this isn't real life. This is just in the story of the songs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so that kind of messes him up. And the second song is about him as a serial killer. He grows up to be a serial killer and he kills some people on the side of the road. And then the third song is a song about that guy on death row. Okay. And sort of having to come faced with the fact that, even if his life was messed up, he's the one that made all the choices. And that's sort of the only mini opera. A set of 3 songs called the Mama San trilogy, which is a reference to a Joe Strummer from The Clash.
Okay.
Or more music stuff for you.
Sure. No,
a reference to one of his songs. So it goes like Alive, Once, and Footsteps is the final song on that.
Oh, interesting. That is fascinating. This has been an interesting tour of the band Pearl Jam. It's an hour, by the way, just so you know. You kind of stuck the landing on that thing. It's at like we're at with
hell yeah.
And so well played, Branden Palomo. So Branden Palomo has a podcast about Pearl Jam where he goes through each of the songs and is continuing because he's only on the 7th of the 11 studio albums. He has a podcast. It's called Better Band Pod. At those for the handles on the social media, and betterbandpod.com for all a little too much information. Get over there and see what's happening over there. And you could go to @Branden Palomo if you just want to talk to Branden Palomo. And I will post the 8-song. I believe the YouTube list is what I will post so that Spotify doesn't add a different 8 songs every time. And that is Branden, and Palomo is PAL. Oh, it's @Branden P.
Yeah.
Okay. For the handles. And thank you so much for doing the show.
Thanks for having me on, Jackie. I think Dork Forest and Jordan Jesse Go were the first podcasts I ever started to listen to, 13, 14 years ago.
Do you know that Jordan reviewed the Dork Forest about 15 years ago, and he said that it was when it was not pre-recorded, and he said that it sounded like someone was holding up their phone to an AM radio. So if you go to my Bandcamp, dorkforest.bandcamp, you could listen to my favorite 17 episodes of the first 200 episodes of the Dork Forest, and they all sound like someone holding their phone up to an AM radio, as Jordan made fun of me. And he's not wrong. But the quality of the conversation was good. Much like this conversation. See that transition? See what I've learned in 16 years? Thank you for doing the show. Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?